Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Alessandro, and today I'm gonna make the most important video on my channel. And the funny thing is, this video is not about 3D animation tutorial, but it's mostly about finance, budget for animators or artists, and investing on yourself and continue to grow your career, right? So I think this is something people don't talk enough about it, and I think it's a very important topic we should discuss. Mostly because, guys, in my career, doing this almost 12 years right now in my career, very often I find out animator or artists that really struggle, in their career financial wise. Sometimes it could be because they don't make enough money, they don't know how to budget it, and they always end up, no, well, not always, but many times I heard people complaining or struggling because, when they lose their job, or maybe they're not happy about their job and they want to change it. And the problem is that they don't have a lot of savings, right? And this is creating a lot of issue because as soon as they lose their job, they get fired or whatever happens, guys, they have very little savings, so they panic, right? Because they cannot continue to pay rent. If they have a mortgage, they are in a lot of stressful situation, right? Because you have, payment they need to do on a monthly basis. They might have a credit card bill, car loan, whatever, they have it. And as soon as they lose their job, they struggle because they don't have enough resource on savings that can help them to continue to have a proper, a decent life. Let's put it that way, a sense of security. And bottom line, when I talk with people like this, it's always come to, I would say, bad choice that they make during the whole career. They never took the budget topic very seriously, right? They always gonna assume they're gonna have like always a good job, or they can find job very easily, so they don't have to worry about it. But at some point in their career, it is gonna happen that you're gonna be laid off, or maybe even could be that there is a job that you don't like it or you wanna quit, but you can because maybe you couldn't find a better job or something like that, right? Or never knows what can happen in life. Like you see what's happening today in the world with the COVID and everything. A lot of people lose their job, and it's not very easy for them to find another one immediately. So if you don't have enough savings, you are pretty much in trouble, right? So I always have a different strategy. I will talk a little bit later, but I want to talk about this specific situation that it happens to me at the beginning of my career, that kind of make me realize how important was this, right? So was first time I went to Crytek. I left my country, all right, and when I started to work there as a junior, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making maybe 1,700 euro after taxes or something. But because likely I was living in a city that it was not very expensive, I managed to save around 1,200 euro a month, right? But in order to do that, guys, I have to tell you, I was taking some sacrifice, because even though with my salary I could easily afford to rent a nice place in a city center, I still saving some kind of a money. I decided to share a place with someone else outside of the city center. I was definitely not spending a lot of money on the latest tech. I was not going out very often. You can say I was making sacrifice for this, but I know I was doing it for the good reason. And it did allow me to manage to save like 1,200 euro every month. Sometimes I was doing more because I was doing extra freelance job just to save a little bit more. So sometimes I was able to save 2,000, 2,003, not very often, to be honest. But when I was making those kind of money, instead of spending more, I was keeping saving and more, because I want to increase the amount of money that I was having in my bank account. And on the other side, guys, I can tell you that my colleagues, even people were, I was there as a junior, so I had even people that were there as a senior that probably were making more, almost double the one I was making. And they were not saving, they were saving like a fraction of what I was saving. Like they told me, that they were sharing with me, they were saving like a 200-300 euro a month or something. And the reason was because even though they were making a lot more money than me, they decided to spend a lot more money on rent. They wanted to stay in a nicer apartment all by themselves in the city center. They were going out drinking twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. They spend a lot of money on the latest tech, always buy the latest tech, phone, computer, a lot of video games, always the latest brand, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the month, they remain with very little. Even they felt about eating, like a simple things like eating. I was cooking at home most of the time. they were always eating outside the restaurant, not necessarily fancy restaurant, but just a simple restaurant or a bar that definitely will cost a lot more than cooking yourself. So at the end of the day, it it consumes all your savings basically. That they remain very very little, and so at some point it happens that after 2 years that we were in this company, there was a massive layoff, right? And people panic because they lose their job suddenly. It happens very sudden. And I remember they were having this discussion where they say, oh, I need to quit immediately my apartment because now I cannot pay rent anymore, and I need to quick getting out very quickly, and maybe the guys will make me pay a fee. I don't get the deposit back. I've been looking for a job, I cannot find any job immediately. And when this happened, I was actually very chill about it. It didn't affect me and everything. And the reason is because when we started to have discussion, this is Alessandro, what you're gonna do? I was like, I'm fine. Actually, I have my own place because, by the way, saving so much money. I even started actually before going to Crytek, just to give you some perspective. I have this saving mentality a lot back then, and apartment over there was very cheap, and I bought my own place, without taking a mortgage and everything. So apartment wise, I was fine, right? So first of all, that's the major things, and second. By the way, the apartment I bought at the very few months before the huge layoff, right, guys? So it happens only at the last minute. But beside that, I always, as I said, accumulating a lot of savings, so I didn't have to worry about anything. In fact, when this huge layoff it happens, I stay at my place. I continue to live comfortably. I have plenty of savings. I never spend a lot of money, so I know my monthly spending was very little, especially because I didn't have to pay at that point rent or mortgage anymore. And I was very chill, continue to build my demo reel, continue to training and stuff like that, while all the other friends, they were panicking. They remained for a month without a job for a few months, 3-4 months, and they were burning all my savings. For me, it didn't affect me, first of all, and second, I was to continue to generate money because I have still some freelance job that I continue to do. But even though I didn't have that, I was in a great position in the sense that I could continue to live in that situation for a couple of years before I had to burn all my savings. And so it was a very good position and allowed me to continue to work on my art, and I slowly continue to look for a job. And I had several job opportunity, but I reject few of them, if you watch my previous video, until I find a good opportunity, right? And I could do this, I could take my time because I have plenty of saving and I budget this properly. But these things where most of the artists don't do that, and they live paycheck by paycheck, or just they save very little, like 300-400 euro a month, which for me is considered nothing. They always end up to be in trouble. And this wasn't just like a one-time situation. I have this kind of conversation with a lot of artists multiple times during those years, right? I was always surprised how a lot of artists don't save a lot. Even though they make a lot of money, they saved very little, and this eventually caused trouble. Some of them, I don't know why they have the expectation, and maybe they can always find job very easily and stuff like that. And for me, that's kind of mentality. It doesn't work. So yeah. But bottom line, guys, now I want to discuss about it. How did I end up, in this situation, this kind of mentality? What did I do at the very beginning? Because obviously, I started doing this even when I was very young, right? And I want to share this with you, so maybe it will help you. So everything started with a goal. I think when I already was 18, 19, still was quite young, I already knew that, at some point growing up, I wanted to have my own apartment and everything, right? And I always been against mortgage, taking loans, stuff like that. I always have this goal that anytime I need to buy something, no matter what it is, I need to do it in cash, okay? I'm not gonna take loan from anybody, right? Because that's not a position I wanted to be. So when I was young, it's like, okay, let me take a look how much it costs to buy an apartment. It's like, it costs around 300,000 euro, not even the one in the city center, right? So it's quite expensive. And it was like, okay, I don't know how much money I'm gonna make in the future in my career and everything. I don't know, I don't have many control, I'm young, I don't have experience. So maybe what I should start to do is start to save money as much as I can, no matter how little I'm making. And so that it happens even after, forget about the first few years where I was really working for very little, but as soon as I started to make, let's say, 1,200 euro as a generalist, I was basically saving 90% of my salary because I was still living with my parents. So I was still in Rome, and again I was going to work taking transportation, so I didn't have a car, I didn't have to pay gasoline. Again, I was cooking home by myself. I was not going out very often with my friends, so I was able. I was having that goal of saving €1,000 every month, no matter what. And I know I was doing sacrifice for that, but I knew I wanted to reach that goal, so I needed to save as much money as I can. Second year I was like, okay, I managed to save this one, 10,000, more or less €10,000 in this first year, and it's not enough. What I'm gonna do? Well, the job that is not giving me a raise, and they give you a raise, maybe it's gonna be a few €100. It's not gonna make a lot of difference. So I started to work to do a second job as a freelance, right? And I was working really heavy. Sometimes I was working 10 hours a day. Sometimes I was even working in the weekend. And I was managed to make once in a while 2,000, €2,500 a month, all right? And again, when I was making all those money, saving, but I was working my ass off. I wasn't basically taking a single day off. And I can tell you guys that while I was doing this, all my other friends, maybe they started their work, even some other friends that were making more money than me, they were wasting all their money in other things. I said, who buy a motorbike, who immediately went to buy a car. They got a job, and 6 months later, they already take a loan to get a car, right? For me, this one didn't make any sense. They were going out very often, drinking, vacation, stuff like that. So they were burning everything. While me, on the other side, I was thinking I wanted to stack more and more money. So I did like a few years like this. I managed to save around €40,000 or something. And then again, I won my first job overseas, and now the things was different because I couldn't stay anymore with my parents, and I have to live by myself, right? So again, I negotiate a higher salary, as I told you, around 1,700 after taxes, and but again, I have to pay rent by myself. But because I still wanted to save more and more, I you know I went to share the place with someone else. And again, I was only about to save 1,200 at the end of the month, and I know it wasn't enough. Continue to do freelance job, and I knew at some point I had to increase, okay, because going that way, it wouldn't give me a lot. Even though I was managed to bought my first property over there, just because it was very cheap. I think that the first property I bought was like 50,000. Even it was in a good location, just because the real estate in that specifically town was super cheap, right? And so what I did, I started to invest money on myself. So basically what it means, I took a private mentor, okay, and I wanted to push my skill as animator, body mechanics, acting. And I can tell you guys, even though it was very expensive, first of all, it was worth it watching what happened in the long run. And second, I could do it because I have plenty of savings, right? So I could afford to spend like €500 every month for this private lesson, because I could still save, first of all, and second, I have plenty of saving before that, right? And so what happened is that even though, okay, let's assume those private teaching cost me, I don't know, $15,000 overall, right? Because it happened for more than a year. And a lot of people told me, even my friends, like, Alessandro, why are you wasting so much money, blah, blah, blah. You could have bought a car, you could have go vacation, you could have bought a supercomputer, a lot of video games. They were telling me all those things, right? But for me, all these things, that doesn't really make sense, because if you spend money in those things, those is not an investment, it's just a liability. So it's not gonna give you more financial confidence in the future. Instead, when I did all this private lesson and everything, my skill grew a lot. And what happened is, after that one, I get a better job, which gives me actually double of my salary, right? So I went more from 1,700 to 3,500 after taxes, right? As I went from a junior mid-level to a senior level. And it was great, guys, because now suddenly all the investment, all the money that I spent into the lesson, private lesson, even though I was already a decent animator, they give me a boost in the salary. Okay, so all those money, basically I take them back in a year, more or less. And from that point, my career continued to grow. And once in a while, I was still doing some private lessons just to continue to refine my skill, right? And I noticed this is something a lot of people don't do. Again, first of all, because they don't have savings, because they don't budget their life properly. And second, because they never think about reinvesting it. When sometimes I told some of my people, hey, spending money on this private lesson, stuff like that, they were kind of making fun of me. But the truth is, all of those things I was doing was helping to grow my financial confidence and growing, my savings for the final goal that I have, right? And obviously, the life became more expensive, housing became more expensive. So obviously, I also started to negotiate for better salary, and every time like I changed job, I was getting better and better. But because even though when I was making more and more money, I wasn't spending more. I was saving more, and well, obviously, when I was living by myself, I was managed to save, like 90% of my salary. Obviously, when I went to live overseas, it wasn't like this, right? But I was still saving. I never went below 65%. I would say that as I started, I was saving 65% of my salary, net salary I'm talking about. Because I wanted to do more, I told you guys I was doing a freelance job, stuff like that. And when I get the better job with double of my salary, I started to save more. I started 70, 75, and then again, even when I started to make $100,000 a year, stuff like that, I was trying to save as much as I could, until I arrived to a point where, as I told you guys, I bought my own property. I didn't have any mortgage and anything. When I left the country, I rented out the property, and the money that I was making, because I didn't have any mortgage to pay, I could use the money just to pay for my food, to pay for bills and everything. And when I was working overseas, the only expenses that I had, it was the rent. But because again I refused to pay a lot of money in rent because I know it was wasted, I always share apartment with other people to spend very little. So what happens to a point that even though I was making 6, 7 thousand or $8,000 after taxes each month, I was spending only 1,000 on the rent, and I have no other expenses left. So I was, as you can imagine, guys, that means to save $7,000 every month, which is a lot of money. It was great. And from there I continued to do that, because that's the thing, guys. When you have that mentality right from the very beginning, you will carry on that mentality later on, right? And it doesn't matter, the more money you make, the more money you started to save, and it gives you uh, a lot of freedom, guys, because first of all, beside the fact that you're saving a lot of money every month, boom, boom, at the end you have to always to think about this proportion. How much money does your life cost, okay, in terms of rent, bill, or whatever you want to do, right? And how much money are you saving every month? And so the question you should ask yourself, with the amount of money that you save every month, how many months you can survive if you were without a job. In my case I was saving 7,000 each month, and my life cost 1,000 a month. So it means that with a month of saving, I could carry on for 7 months without a job. That was my proportion, and now it's even greater, honestly. And that's an awesome position to be in. When I was talking with people, it looked like they never even thought about this. And so sometimes the conversation was even deeper. I was like, dude, if you're not saving money, you know that with this job we are not gonna get any pension when you're gonna get retired. So I was asking them, what are you gonna do when you're gonna be 65, you're tired, when I retire, if you have no money? Because nobody's gonna give you money for free. We are not saving money for retirement. What they're gonna do? And they were like, oh, actually I never thought about this. I will worry about later. Like, worried about later? What are you talking about? It's not that money were falling from the sky like rain just for you, right? It doesn't work like this. If you don't take care of this, nobody will. And they look about it, it's too soon to talk about it. No, it's not too soon, it's too late. Because to accumulate a good wealth, you should start as soon as possible. Also because life in 30 years is going to be a lot more expensive than now. So if you save $2,000 a month now, in 30 years probably it's going to worth a lot less. Probably it's going to be worth $1,000 or maybe less. So you want to save a lot more. And again, I was very surprised to see that people never have this kind of mindset. So that the things that I did also back then when I was in Canada, when I was talking with this, and some people were kind of surprised how much money I was saving, I did a little bit of finance consulting with them, because people were struggling, and they wanted to know from me if I could help them to come up with a plan, what they should have cut in, and the life expenses, stuff like that, to come up with a budget. And I never done this actively, like advertising on everything, because I was already busy with my animation tutor, my job as animator, my YouTube channel and everything, so I didn't have the need to do it. because was mostly people approaching me with this, like, hey Alessandro, you know what, I'm struggling with my job to have a proper living, to have savings. I know you've been doing really good about this, can you help me? So we've been doing like financial plan, lesson, let's call it like this. And but the good things, I was really happy is that those people came after me. They contacted me back after 1 year. I said, Alessandro, I'm so happy because after the talk with you and everything, now I have so much money left in my bank account. I have so much savings. This year I managed to save 30,000 euro, $30,000. And back then, before it took me like 5 years to save 15,000 or something like that, right? And now just in 1 year I saved double than what I used to save in 5 years. And now now that I changed mentality, I can continue to grow, blah blah blah. I negotiate better salary, stuff like that. So it was making me really happy, because I know I could help people that they were struggling. Okay, especially one of them, they have their family, they have a lot of expenses, so they needed to do some sacrifice. But now his life is in a much better position. So it really made me happy when I knew I could help those people out, right? So it's something I was happy and proud about it. And so yeah, guys, today was a very, very different video, but for me this is something important. I do believe that people should teach in school those kind of things, because as I said, when people don't do it, they end up to be in really huge trouble. I know some animator really struggle a lot. Not just animator, artists in general. A lot of people doing their job, doesn't matter. As I said, I know some people making really good money and they don't have this saving mentality. And then when they take a lot of loan for car, houses and everything, as soon as they lose their good job, even if they have a 6-figure job, they need to sell their stuff because they cannot keep paying that anymore. And I don't agree with this kind of mentality. As I told you guys, I never took a loan for anything in my entire life, and I don't intend to do it now. Actually, I'm always have this mentality that if you cannot afford to pay, you shouldn't buy it. That's all. If you cannot afford to use your actual cash, what you have in your bank account, to pay something, you shouldn't get it. That's my mentality. Maybe all the exception could be for houses, but even in that case, personally, I don't want to do it. But that's different preference. Okay, guys, I hope you find this interesting, and see you next time. Ciao.